Matthew 27. Two more chapters. All right. Very early in the morning, the leading priests and the elders of the people met again to lay plans for putting Jesus to death. They bound him, led him away, and took him to Pilate, the Roman governor. Pontius Pilate was the Roman governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, realized that Jesus had been condemned to die, he was filled with remorse. So he felt terrible. He felt bad. So he took the 30 pieces of silver back to the leading priests and the elders. I have sinned, he declared, for I have betrayed an innocent man. Okay? What do we care? They retorted. That's your problem. Then Judas threw the silver coins down in the temple and went out and hanged himself. So Judas felt so terrible about it that he killed himself. He knew that he had betrayed an innocent man and he had betrayed God. And he killed himself. Okay? That's terrible, right? He must have felt very bad for that.
Who was he speaking to?
He was speaking to, I think it was a they,
Was he already around?
back to the leading priests and the elders. Okay? Alright, so, the leading priests picked up the coins. It wouldn't be right to put this money in the temple treasury, they said, since it was payment for murder. After some discussion, they finally decided to buy the potter's field, and they made it into a cemetery for foreigners. That is why the field is still called the field of blood. This fulfilled the prophecy of Jeremiah that says, they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price at which he was valued by the people of Israel, and purchased the potter's field as the Lord directed. Now, Jesus was standing before Pilate, the Roman governor. Are you the king of the Jews? The governor asked him. Jesus replied, you have said it. So that means yes, you have said it. So what we're seeing is Jesus was first talking to the high priest and the elders, the priestly elders. Now they're being taken to the Roman governor. So the priestly elders were like was a church, but the Roman governor was in charge of the area. Okay, he was like the government. The
United States.
Okay.
Be the government.
So now they're going to go to him to see what he says. Okay. So, are you the king of the Jews? The governor asked him. Jesus replied, you have said it. So that means yes. But when the leading priests and the elders made their accusations against him, Jesus remained silent. Don't you hear all these charges they are bringing against you? Pilate demanded. But Jesus made no response to any of the charges, much to the governor's surprise. Now it was the governor's custom each year during the Passover celebration to release one prisoner to the crowd, anyone they wanted. This year, there was a notorious prisoner, a man named Barabbas. As the crowds gathered before Pilate's house that morning, he asked them, which one do you want me to release to you? Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah? He knew very well that the religious leaders had arrested Jesus out of envy. So he is trying to give them a chance to pick Jesus, to save Jesus. But he knows that a lot of the religious leaders had wanted Jesus to die on purpose. Okay? Just then, as Pilate was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent him this message. Leave that innocent man alone. I suffered through a terrible nightmare about him last night. So she had a nightmare about what was about to happen. She felt terrible about it. And she tells her husband, leave him alone. Meanwhile, the leading priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas to be released and for Jesus to be put to death. So the priests are saying, let Let's tell everyone to choose Barabbas so that Jesus can't be spared. So the governor asked again, which of these two do you want me to release to you? The crowd shouted back, Barabbas. Pilate responded, then what should I do with Jesus, who is called the Messiah? They shouted back, crucify him. Why? Pilate demanded. What crime has he committed? But the mob roared even louder, crucify him. So Pilate was conflicted because he wanted to see if there was a way around it, but there was no way around it. The people wanted to see him crucified. Okay, again, they did not know what they were doing. And the priests were envious, and they just wanted him killed. Okay? Pilate saw that he wasn't getting anywhere and that a riot was developing. So he sent for a bowl of water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. The responsibility is yours. And all the people yelled back, we will take responsibility for his death, we and our children. So Pilate released Barabbas to them. So Barabbas went free. Okay? He ordered Jesus flogged with a lead-tipped whip, then turned him over to the Roman soldiers to be crucified. So he released Jesus to the soldiers so that they can beat him and whip him, hurt him. Some of the governor's soldiers took Jesus into their headquarters and called out the entire regiment. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. They wove thorn branches into a crown and put it on his head, and they placed a reed stick in his right hand as a scepter. Then they knelt before him in mockery and taunted him. Hail, King of the Jews! So now they're making fun of him. They know he's going to die. They know that they're beating him up. They know that they're going to do terrible things to him, and they're making fun of him. Again, not realizing they're making fun of God himself. So they're in big trouble, right? We're all in big trouble when we don't realize who God is. Right? And they spit on him and grabbed the stick and struck him on the head with it. Boom. Hit him on the head with the stick. Boom. They were finally tired of mocking him, and they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him again. Then they led him away to be crucified. Along the way, they came across a man named Simon, who was from Cyrene, and the soldiers forced him to carry Jesus' cross. And they went out to a place called Golgotha, which means place of the skull. The soldiers gave Jesus wine mixed with bitter gall, but when he had tasted it, he refused to drink it. So now they're making it such a terrible experience for him. Instead of giving him water to help him walk his cross, because he had to walk his cross all the way to where he was going to be crucified. Nobody would carry it for him. He had to carry his own cross where he was going to be put to death. So he had to walk that big stick, that big cross stick, all the way to where he was going to be crucified. And this is after they beat him. So his muscles are sore. Maybe he had some broken, bones. Maybe he had some scars, some blood dripping everywhere. And he's so tired. But he still has to carry his own cross to where he's going to be put to death. And at some point, Jesus starts falling down. He can't get up anymore. He's exhausted, right? Because we know he's God, but he's also man, right? And we know that he knows he has to die, and he knows that this has to happen. So right now he's exhausted, and he's trying to do what he's supposed to do, but he's just tired. So the guards, after they're making fun of him and laughing at him and everything like that, they're saying, "You, come help him. Come help him carry his cross." Because they want this to hurry up and him to get to where he needs to go so that they can do what they need to do. Okay? So instead of giving him water, they gave him wine. what you need to know about wine is that wine mixed with bitter gall, it's worse than, it's like, it makes you more thirsty. Because it's bitter. It makes you more thirsty. Okay? So if you wanted water then, if you drank wine, you would need even more water because it's just that bad. Okay? Alright. After they had nailed him to the cross, the soldiers gambled for his clothes by throwing dice. So they were like playing games to see who can get his clothes. To see who can win his clothes in like a game. Okay? Then they sat around and kept guard as he hung there. Okay, so now Jesus is he's on the cross, suspended. He's got a nail in his hand against the wood, and on his hand, and he has nails going through his feet. So he's hanging there. And they're waiting for him to just die. Okay?
What does he have on his head?
Oh, good question. Great question. He has on, they had these thorns, these reeds put on his head. And they made a fake crown. Okay? Why did they do that? Because they wanted to make fun of him. Okay? They wanted to make fun of him because he said he was the king of the Jews. And they're like, oh yeah, you're the king of the Jews, huh? Here, put this crown on your head. Let's put this crown on his head. So that way we can show everybody that he's the king of the Jews. And this crown had some really sharp thorns that would have been going into his head and making him bleed. He wouldn't die by it, but it would just make him bleed.
It's torture.
So it's torture. They're hurting him, torturing him, making fun of him. Right?
Why would they put nails through his hands and his feet?
So that he can hang there and die slowly. They wanted him to suffer. They wanted him to be in pain because they thought that he was disrespecting God, but he wasn't. So back then, when they thought you disrespected God, that's how you would be put to death. That's one of the ways that you would be put to death. Okay. A sign was fastened above Jesus' head, announcing the charge against him. It read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." 2 revolutionaries were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. So he wasn't the only person who was being crucified that day. There was 2 other people being crucified. The people passing by shouted abuse, shaking their heads in mockery. "Look at you now," they yelled at him. "You said you were going to destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Well then, if you are the Son of God, save yourself and come down from the cross. If you're really the Son of God, why are you hanging in there on a stick? Why don't you come down and save yourself?" That's what they're saying. They're making fun of him. The leading priests, the teachers of religious law, and the elders also mocked Jesus. "He saved others," they scoffed, "but he can't save himself. So he is the King of Israel, right? Is he? Let him come down from the cross right now, and we will believe him." So they're testing God because they're saying, "Oh, if you're really God, why don't you come down from there?" You don't test God, right? You're not supposed to test God. So just because Jesus was accepting that this had to happen to him, remember, it doesn't mean he couldn't have stopped it immediately, or that the Father couldn't have stopped it immediately. But he loved us so much, he endured this. He accepted this punishment for us. Because even though he knew we were wrong, he loved us so much that he was willing to go through it so that we can be saved. Okay? "Let him come down from the cross right now and we will believe him," they said. He trusted God, so let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, "I am the Son of God." Even the revolutionaries who were crucified with him ridiculed him the same way. So even the 2 people who were sitting next to him were making fun of him. Everyone is making fun of Jesus at this point. Okay? At noon, sit up, buddy. At noon, darkness fell across the whole land until 3 o'clock. At about 3 o'clock, Jesus called out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you abandoned me? Okay? Now what you have to know about this phrase is that there's double meaning here. This is actually a prophecy from the book of Isaiah. Is it the book of Isaiah or is it Psalms? I think it's Psalms. Psalm 22, that's right. This is something that was prophesied before that he would end up saying. So they knew before the scriptures told that he would say those words. My God, why have you forsaken me? So this is to mark a place in time. Okay, this is to show this is what is marking a prophecy from before. Some of the bystanders misunderstood and thought he was calling for the prophet Elijah. One of them ran and filled a sponge with sour wine, holding it up to him on a reed stick so he could drink. But the rest said, wait, let's see whether Elijah comes to save him. So again, they're mocking him, making fun of him still. Then Jesus shouted again, and he released his spirit. At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. So basically graves opened up. Okay? The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people. I'm sorry, let me read this over again. The earth shook, rocks split apart, and tombs opened. The bodies of many godly men and women who had died were raised from the dead. They left the cemetery after Jesus' resurrection, went into the holy city of Jerusalem, and appeared to many people. The Roman officer and the other soldiers at the crucifixion were terrified by the earthquake and all that had happened. They said, this man truly was the Son of God. Now they realize, he was telling the truth. Now God is very angry because there's earthquakes, there's rocks shaking, there's all kinds of things happening now, and they realize that they're in big trouble. Okay? And many women who had come from Galilee with Jesus to care for him were watching from a distance. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee. As evening approached, Joseph, a rich man from Arimathea, who had become a follower of Jesus, went to Pilate and asked for Jesus' body. And Pilate issued an order to release it to him. Joseph took the body and wrapped it in a long sheet of clean linen cloth. He placed it in his own new tomb, which had been carved out of the rock. So Joseph wants to take Jesus' body and bury it properly, out of respect. He's saying, let me take him down from the cross, and let us put him to rest. Let us lay him in the grave like he belongs to, not to just sit there. Okay? So he wants to bury him with respect. Okay, that's a sign of respect. He placed it in his own new tomb, which had been carved out of rock. Then he rolled a great stone across the entrance and left. So they put Jesus in a tomb and they closed the tomb. so that his body could just rest. Okay? And nobody would go in there and disturb it. Okay? Both Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting across from the tomb and watching. The next day, on the Sabbath, the leading priests and Pharisees went to see Pilate. They told him, "Sir, we remember what that deceiver once said while he was still alive. After 3 days, I will rise from the dead." Right? So they're saying, not only did he say he was the Son of God, but he said that after 3 days, what would happen? After 3 days, what did Jesus say he was going to do? He's going to rise. He's going to rise from the dead. Okay? So we request that you seal the tomb until the 3rd day. This will prevent his disciples from coming in and stealing his body and then telling everyone he was raised from the dead. If that happens, we'll be worse off than we were at first. Pilate replied, "Take guards and secure it the best you can." So they sealed the tomb and posted guards to protect it. So Pilate is saying they want his body to be gone, because if he's gone, then they can tell everyone, "Oh, look, he rose from the dead." So he said, "I'm going to put guards there so that nobody can come and take his body." We're going to continue on with 28 because it's short and we're almost finished, okay? All right. Almost done here, guys, okay? Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. Suddenly there was a great earthquake. Okay, now there's a great earthquake. For an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and sat on it. His face shone like lightning. It was shining like lightning. And his clothing was as white as snow. The guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. So they saw him, and they're like, "Oh my God," and they fainted. They could not believe what they had seen. So they fainted. Then the angel spoke to the women. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I know you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't there. He is risen from the dead, just as he said would happen. Come, see where his body was lying. And now go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you." So Jesus said he would see everyone again in Galilee, remember? He said that before. In chapter 26, he said he would see them again in Galilee after he rose from the dead. All right. So now they saw that he wasn't there. So they said, his body's not here. That means he's resurrected. He survived death. His body's not there anymore. The women ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but also filled with great joy, and they rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them, and they ran to him. You hear that? And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them. So he came back. Okay? As a resurrected Jesus, he came back. And he met with them. And he greeted them. And they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Don't be afraid. Go tell my brothers to leave for Galilee, and they will see me there." Okay? As the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and told the leading priests what had happened. a meeting with the elders was called. So they called a meeting and they said, okay, we need to talk about what's happened here. And they decided to give the soldiers a large bribe. They told the soldiers, you must say Jesus' disciples came during the night while we were sleeping and they stole his body. So they're still trying to disrespect Jesus and God, even though he did everything that he said he was going to do. Okay? If the governor hears about it, we'll stand up for you so you won't get in trouble. So the guards accepted the bribe. A bribe is when you give somebody money to do something bad or to not do something they're supposed to do. Okay? So basically to lie. Okay? So the guards accepted the bribe and said what they were told to say. Their story spread widely among the Jews, and they still tell it today. So there's Jews that still tell the story today. Okay? That somebody stole Jesus' body out of the tomb, and that he didn't really rise from the dead. Somebody just moved the body. But how can people just move a big stone like that? Right? They couldn't have just moved the stone like that. And then what about the fact that he said that what was going to happen beforehand? Right? This is one of my favorite parts here, and this is the end. Okay? Jesus gives a great commission. Then the 11 disciples left for Galilee. Okay, the 11 being, remember, Judas he hung himself. So the 11 disciples left for Galilee, going to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some of them doubted. Jesus came and told his disciples, I have been given all authority in heaven and on earth. Okay, not some authority, all authority in heaven and on earth. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations. Disciples, make disciples of all nations. What's a disciple? We talked about this before. A disciple who is a follower of Christ and who is authorized by Christ, okay, to preach and to give his word, to evangelize to other people, okay? So go and make disciples of all nations. Jesus wants you to go and try to talk to everyone, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commands I have given you, and be sure of this, I am with you always. Okay, that's very important. And be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. It means even to when this world is over, he is with us. And that's it. That is the entire book of Matthew. Very, very nice. So, any questions on the whole book, on anything? Any comments? What do you think? What did you learn?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a couple.
You have what?
I don't have any questions. I forgot my question.
Okay.
The only thing I can say is the whole book was surprising and amazing.
Yeah, and you see how even though when I say we, humans, we did so much bad things to Jesus, but he still decided that he wanted to save us, and he accepted the sacrifice so that he can save us, so that we can be with him. Somewhere along in the Bible it says, and this is one of the things that I've always paid attention to, it talks about how, I guess in the beginning, it it was said that we were slaves or servants, right? And then later on, we transcend from that into friends, because it said that the book says that we were once slaves or servants, and now we're friends. And then later on, even after that, Jesus calls us in this book later on. He calls us into his family as brothers and sisters. And we'll learn more about that. But it's important to realize where we were and where we've come to. Okay? But thank you guys for sticking with me and for finishing. You guys are awesome. It takes a lot of dedication to sit here and pay attention and be dedicated. So thank you guys. And we did it together. I don't know exactly how much time we did. I'm going to probably put another video out about how long we did. But this was a lot of hours that we did. A lot of hours. I am beyond proud of you guys. I think this was more than 10 hours worth of study. Easily more than 10 hours worth of study. And we did it together. We did it as a family. Okay, and it's because we put it in video, we can always go back to it to study it and see how we studied it together. So great job. Love you guys. And hopefully we can do much more, okay? All right. Book of Matthew, chapter 28, and it's over. Thank you.